Hey guys, welcome to MECH. You know me as Wads, formerly of Sum41, and as you can see, I'm coming to you with a new deck profile. This is the deck that I ran when I went to the John Invitational Qualifier in Glassboro, New Jersey at the comic book store. I did not take any place in the top 8, but I did come in 11th, which I was personally very proud of, especially since this was my first organized event tournament that was constructed. And I thought I'd share with all you what I ran. As you can see, I ran with my classic cars, different version. I normally go, as you know, the 4 wide, but I decided to try something a little different. I had an idea, and it seemed to work when I was testing with it, so I ran with it. As you can see, I went with Cliff Jumper, which is one of my favorite cards. Loved him since Wave 1. I've tried making him work in every wave, and he just keeps getting better and better, at least to me. As you can see, I also used Prowl from Wave 1, and I love the bold 2 that he gives. Perfect opportunity to take advantage of it with this particular build. And I also used Bumblebee Legendary Warrior, which was also from Wave 1, as you probably know. And I love him because the idea with this character is I flip him over early on and attack with him, and then I use various untapping effects and flip effects, such as escape routes and whatnot, to flip him back over, and then I use start your engines or turbo boosters to get him untapped again, so he can just keep going. And the idea is because when he flips back to car mode, he gets to attack whoever he wants. Now obviously when you have to factor in things like Brave and Stealth, it's going to change who my targets are, but for the most part he can pretty much dig into whoever he wants. Now with all that covered, let's go ahead and jump right into the upgrades. I went with the obvious staple in a very bold aggro deck: 3 improvised shields, double orange, no stars. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I also went with 3 copies of turbo boosters. Again, the untaps were very important in this. I explained that, you know, I want to keep untapping and when I flip over, especially when I flip over Bumblebee, so he can just keep going until he's been killed. Another obvious staple for aggro, I got 3 grenade launchers. Big boost to attack, always love that. If I already have an untap effect ready to go, I mean, I can just slap that on Bumblebee and he's coming in hot. Now, I ran 3 erratic lightnings. I didn't use this card very much. Typically, I would slap this down on somebody if I didn't have any other choice as far as getting bigger attacks out. But for the most part, I would reserve it more or less like a poor man's grenade launcher. You know, oh, B's down to like 2 health. He's going in for the last swing he's probably going to take. They're probably going to dump a big attack on him anyways, so I might as well make his last swing as big as humanly possible. I ran 3 copies of Power Punch. I personally like Power Punch. It can be good or bad. You know, you run into Acid Storm or Dampening Fields or Gyro Blasters. It can really put a hamper on what you're trying to do, but you know, you always have the option to side it out or just not use it in lieu of another weapon. I personally had plenty of success with it, but I can understand why people wouldn't necessarily want to run it. I also have 2 bashing shields. I mean, green pip and an orange pip gives me a boost to defense and be able to knock an armor off, get rid of that force field, get rid of that reinforced plating, sparring gear. You know, I see a lot of reflex circuits out there. Just, you know, get all those defensive nuisances out of the way. And then last but not least, I got 2 copies of force field. I put it in there because I pretty much wanted to try and neuter the damage coming in as much as I could, but I found most of the time it didn't make its way into my hand, at least not this time around. So, useful, but I didn't really get to use it a whole lot. I think I may have played Force Field once in the entire tournament. Alright, let's jump over into actions. Start with another staple for aggro: 3-piece through Tyranny, double pips. You also get the no stars on it. Also have the effect like, oh, Bumblebee's gonna die next turn anyways, but everybody's just about, you know, opponent's tapped out. I get 1 more attack. Let's turn that attack into 2 attacks. You know, try and kill something off that I wouldn't necessarily get to. Got 3 start your engines. Classic car staple. I love it. You know, it's flipping things around. Flip Prowl back over, get that bold 2, flip Bumblebee, get that to attack that untapped character. You know, it's the best, one of my favorite, and it's one of the best staples in the game as far as cars are concerned. Got 3 supercharge. Again, bold, bolstering those attacks, getting in there, put on as much hurt as you can. Pretty self-explanatory in an aggro deck. Same with my 3 reckless charge. This one takes a little bit more planning to do because you don't necessarily want to be throwing 3 damage out willy-nilly, but at the same time, you know, +4 attack, you throw that down with a grenade launcher and a big attack's coming out. And I personally love being able to put the hurt on as much as I can. I got 3 confidence. All Autobots means that I'm going to be able to dig in and try and find the actions I really want, whether it be start your engines or get to that turbo boosters, get to that reckless charge or supercharge. You know, it really gives me a chance to get what I need to get. I got 3 rollouts. Now with Prowl and Bumblebee both having those flip effects, I constantly want to be changing them back to car mode to trigger those effects, and having both the blue and the orange icon is good because whether I'm flipping it for an attack or a defend, it's going to help. I got 2 escape routes, and I personally loved this card in this. I used it quite a bit, and whether it be to flip Bumblebee back over and then turbo boost him, as well as getting another manual flip. You know, it comes in a lot of handy. That green pip, it's searchable. The white pip lets me get extra flips when I see it. It just all around, I found it very useful. I personally am a big fan of this card. And last but not least, for that extra star that I didn't have on my team, I've got Heroic Team Up. Now, originally I was planning on mounted missiles, which might have been a little bit stronger in this case, but the idea was to flip Prowl back over, then play this, get the boost of 3 as well as the bold 2. I found that very often I didn't get to draw this card, especially with it only being 1 in, and the few times I did draw it, the situation just wasn't good. Very likely that that card gets replaced either with a mounted missiles or a full loadout going into the next version. But the orange and blue was helpful. It helped save a few bots on the defense flips, but other than that, I found it wasn't great. Alright, let's go ahead and clean this up and get to the sideboard. Alright, let's start off with, for my sideboard, I had Bumblebee, Trusted Lieutenant, and I found I was siding him in quite a bit. The idea with running Legendary Warrior main was because I was expecting a lot of Insecticons. It's a very popular deck, it's widely used, and I'll be honest, I thought that I was going to see it a lot more than I did. So, almost every game, Game 2, I was siding in Bumblebee. He made a bigger splash, the extra actions, he's got higher attack and by sacrificing, you know, 1 health, as well as being able to cycle those cards. That Peace Through Tyranny I have in the opening hand wasn't very helpful, and I found that being able to pitch that to draw 2 more cards got me access to things I wanted, so most likely in the next version, he's probably going to take the main deck, and then Bumblebee Legendary Warrior is probably going to make it into the side in his place. Now we'll tuck him over here. Let's get into the actual cards. I have 3 copies of One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall. I found that that card saved my butt a ton. I found siding it in most games, not all of them, but it was very helpful when I drew it. I found that there was some matches it just didn't show up. I was flipping it for defenses, I was flipping it for attacks, I just couldn't get it into my hand, and it's a great card, but, you know, the luck of the draw is what you really got to worry about, and unfortunately that's just how it played. Now I've got 2 copies of Cornered. That was mainly for dealing with Shrapnel. Again, I didn't face any Insecticons, which I was planning for, but I did find that when I was playing against King Starscream, it was something I did side in, only because, you know, they put that security console on so they can keep stacking those Decepticon crowns. You play corner, they can stack it all they want. It's not going to do anything because he's not getting that boost anymore. Other than that, though, this mostly stayed in the side deck. I didn't find a lot of situations. I didn't run in any aerial bots either, so, you know, pretty much it just sat there. It was one of those things I would have rather had it and not needed it than to have needed it and it not be there. I got 2 ramming speeds. I didn't really find a need to side these in all that much, I'll be honest. It was mostly in case I ran into something where I needed more removal. Again, that was a situation I didn't run into, but it was good to have just in case. I had 2 enforcement batons, and that was for dealing with battle masters. I really only ran into one deck that used one, and I didn't find a situation where I could have sided it in and it actually helped, because most of the time when that battle master was being used, I was in a situation where dismantling it was going to put me further behind than just trying to drive the nail home. And who knows, maybe if I sided it in I would have done a little better, but we're never going to know at this point. And I have one empty slot, and unfortunately I didn't have any. My sideboard was modified on the fly, mostly to account for things that I couldn't figure out. So I did side one emergency defense field. I really only sided it in once. I didn't really use it. I find that it's just an empty slot, and with only one slot left, I really couldn't figure out anything that I could find that was more useful. Now, all of that said and done, we're going to go ahead and say that I liked this build, and it's going to be improved upon. And I personally, I want to say that I saw at least one other Cars build that used a similar format to this. Now, I don't know what the actual deck list was for it, but I did see the bot lineup similar to what I'm going to be using in the future. And it doesn't surprise me. It's a strong deck. I really like it, and I think that it has a lot of potential to, I don't know, dominate the meta. It might or might not. It's all about those flips. It's all about what you run into. It's really all about personal taste. I've run so many decks. You guys could, if you could see my notebook, I mean, I have one of those little 5-star notebooks. It is filled up with new ideas, and there's going to be new decks coming down the road. This deck will probably still be continually improved upon, and I love it personally, so I'm going to keep working on it. And hopefully when I go to my next qualifier, I'll actually be able to do exactly what I set out to do and win and get that invite, because I really want to make it to the Invitational Tournament. It's a big goal of mine, and I'm going to keep swinging for the fences, because that's all I can do. Anyway, thanks for coming out to listen to me ramble a little bit. I appreciate all the support. I'm so happy to see that so many people were willing to come back and listen to me again after Sum 41 kind of crapped the bed. There were some creative differences, and I was sad to see things end, but I wasn't ready to let go. So if you keep following us over here on MECH, I'll keep putting out content for you. It might not be as frequent as it was over on Sum 41, but I am going to make sure that I don't let go, and I'm going to show you guys that I can be as good as everybody else. I mean, there's really not much else to say. I'm excited to keep playing. I'm excited to meet more people, and thanks for coming out, and I'll see you next time.